Before 1904, when editing was not still in use, most films were conceived of one shot. Each shot is made as long as the camera can hold. Editing plays a major role in the system of the film. It provides organization and coherence in the film itself. What is editing? As we all know, editing is the coordination of one shot with the next. A shot is one or more exposed frames in a series on a continuous length of film stock. The film editors cut unwanted footage or scenes and superfluous frames. They also join their desired shots. There are different kinds of joining shots. Fade out, fade in, dissolve,
Katong sa opisina. Minsay sinadya kong paghintayin siya ng pinapili namin. Habang nararamdaman kong papalayo ako ng
wipe, and cut.
papasayon.
Anong klaseng sagot yan?
Pinag-isipan ko na ho ito ng husto. Buntis ho ako.
Graphic relations between shot A and shot B. Graphic relations between shot A and shot B may be considered purely as graphic configurations, as patterns of light and dark, line and shape, volumes and depths, movement and stasis independent of the shot's relation to the time and space of the story. Editing together any two shots permits the interaction, through similarity and difference, of the purely pictorial qualities of those two shots. Rhythmic relations between shot A and shot B. Each shot, being a strip of film, is of a certain length, measured in frames feet or meters, and the shot's physical length corresponds to a measurable duration on screen. Editing thus allows the filmmaker to determine the duration of each shot. When the filmmaker adjusts the length of shots in relation to one another, he or she is controlling the rhythmic potential of editing. More commonly, the rhythmic possibilities of editing enroach when several shot lengths form a discernible pattern. The filmmaker can also set a dynamic pace. Lengthening shots can gradually slow the tempo, while excessively shorter shots can accelerate it.
Spatial relations between shot A and shot B. Editing permits the filmmaker to juxtapose any 2 points in space and thus imply some kind of relationship between them. The director might, for instance, start with a shot that establishes a spatial whole and follow this with a shot of a part of this space. Alternatively, the filmmaker could construct a whole space out of component parts. Temporal relations between shot A and shot B. Like other film techniques, editing can control the time of the action denoted in the film. In a narrative film especially, editing usually contributes to the plot's manipulation of story time. The manipulation of events leads to changes in story-plot relations. We are most familiar with such manipulations in flashbacks, which present one or more shots of their presumed story order. A much rarer option for reordering story events is the flash forward, where the editing moves from the present to a future event and then returns to the present. Filmmakers may use flash forwards to tease the viewer with glimpses of the eventual outcome of the story action.
Its purpose is to allow space, time, and action to continue in a smooth flow over a series of shots. Graphic qualities are usually kept roughly continuous from shot to shot, and the rhythm of the cutting is usually made dependent on the camera distance of the shot. Spatial continuity or the 180-degree system. The 180-degree system ensures relative positions in the frame remain consistent, consistent eye lines, and consistent screen direction. As long as our shots do not cross the axis or axis of action, cutting them together will keep the screen direction of the person's movement constant. But if we cut across the axis and film a shot from the other side, the person will now appear on the screen as moving from the right to left.
Ba't ikaw pa nag-akyat niyan?
Nang, pwede ko ba tayong mag-usap?
Kung tungkol sa nangyari kagabi,
Ba't hindi ko kayo tumutol?
alam mo namang hindi ako maaaring tumanggi.
Ano ang binabalak niya para sa amin?
Kamusta na ho kayo, Nang?
Cross-cutting gives us unrestricted knowledge of casual, temporal, or spatial information by alternating shots from one line of action in one place with shots of other events in other places. It creates spatial discontinuity, but it binds the action together by creating a sense of cause and effect and temporal simultaneity, presenting narrative actions happening at different locations on a roughly same time.
Mabuti pa siguro sa probinsya muna kayo. Saan? Sa Los Baños, sa utol ko. Gusto nyo? Ano, Mila?
Kahit saan.
Noel! Noel! Okay na lang! Lumabas ka dito! Noel! Noel!
Bakit ho?
Nasaan ang amo mo?
Sino ho?
Si Noel!
Ay, wala ho siya rito.
Okay na lang! Alam kong nga yan siya! Palabasin mo ina! Palabasin mo!
Ay! Ah!
Noel! Noel! Okay na lang! Ilabas mo rito ang anak ko! Noel! Noel! Noel!
Intensified continuity, fast cutting of shots coordinated by anamorphic widescreen, staging in depth, close-ups and medium close-ups, rack focus and mobile framing. Graphic and rhythmic possibilities. Graphic, editing in terms of light, texture, and shape, and sometimes on the basis of graphic pattern of movement, direction, speed. Rhythmic, editing in relation to tempo and acceleration of shots, prominent in films inclined with music videos. Spatial and temporal discontinuity. Spatial discontinuity. Instead of an axis of action that dictates the camera be placed within an imaginary semicircle, filmmakers work as if the action were not aligned but a point at the center of a circle, and as if the camera would be placed at any point on the circumference. Shots present multiple spatial perspectives on a single event. Construction of 360 degrees in space that produces what the continuity style would consider grave editing errors. It is a violation of the 180-degree lines that yield inconsistent relative positions and screen directions.
Devices of discontinuity. First, jump cut is when two shots of the same subject are cut together but are not sufficiently different in camera distance and angle. There will be a noticeable jump on the screen and interrupts the story with abrupt gaps. Second is the non-diegetic insert. A filmmaker cuts from the scene to a metaphorical or symbolic shot that is not part of the space and time of the narrative. Suspends story action altogether. Temporal discontinuity does not follow the notion of 1, 2, 3 order of story events. Scenes cut or interrupted by images that may represent flashbacks or fantasy episodes or even future events. Same events show repeatedly or show the variable frequency for narrative purposes.
The functions of discontinuity editing includes to present the shots as emotional and conceptual units and pushes the viewer to interpret implicit meaning.